Hey there, welcome to the live stream, Monday morning live stream at 10 a.m. So glad you're here and able to join today. So we're going to be continuing this portrait, and hopefully we'll get a little bit further along with some of the smoothing out of the skin on the portrait. So there's some key areas that I want to cover really today. I want to use a middle value over here on this edge, and then I want to smooth out the forehead in particular. And if we have time, we'll readdress that eye again, and we'll just kind of move in and out of some of those areas. So, all right. Now I'm hoping that our software here is going to be working today better than it did last week and the week prior with streaming over on YouTube. So I don't know. I can't really tell for sure. It looks like it might be working, but if anyone's over there on YouTube Live, let me know, because we're streaming in 3 different places today. I'll try to remember not to get too close to this camera and show the top of my head in the main part of the frame here. All right. So I'm going to be using, I think I'm going to try this cinnamon over here. I'm going to be using pretty much these 3 pink colors primarily. That cinnamon, I think, will give us really the tone that we're after over here on the side plane of the head over here. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, you can go ahead and type those into the chat, and I should be able to hear them as you type them. The Restream software actually does a text-to-speech interpolation and allows me to hear what the text is. So I really like that feature. One reason why I don't want to stop using the software, actually. I did see something though where I could do that, some type of way to do that on YouTube Live, maybe even Facebook Live. I'm not sure, but I may have to explore that. I don't know. We'll have to see. So hope you guys are having a good Monday, and that you're staying safe and healthy, and wearing masks maybe if you feel like you need to do that. I'm seeing a lot more masks when I go to the grocery store. And really, in the past week, the grocery store I go to started putting up plexiglass barriers everywhere, which was interesting. Probably a good thing that they've got those in front of the cashiers, over at the pharmacy, and they've also got some type of plastic over the card readers, rather than it being that hard surface plastic. Okay, so now I'm using my dark, they call this dark flesh, I guess. I don't get too hung up on the name designations that colored pencil companies give names, but it does help you to identify, which pencil you're using. So when you want to use it again, you'll be able to grab the right pencil. But when they label it as something being for flesh, that doesn't really tell me that it's actually for flesh. It just tells me it's a pink color. this a little bit brighter than what I wanted, which is intentional. And then I'm using this pink color to soften that, or brush this area and smooth it out. Because by the time I'm done, I want smooth skin. I want it to look smooth. That's my goal. There we go. So I come back in here with medium flesh. And especially in some of these areas where that dark flesh adhered a little more than I wanted, I may have to try to take some of that off, and I can do that pretty easily. Actually, right in here would be one of those areas. I don't want that to be too dark. If I left that, that's what that would be. So we did spray this surface, and that gave us a nice textured surface to go over the top of again. Well, it might help if I use my mic. I just remembered I don't have my mic up here. That probably made a difference. There we go. You may not have been able to hear me. How's that? If anybody's watching over on YouTube live, let me know. I would appreciate that. And you can probably hear me now. I think the gain was turned down really low. Oh, I'm looking over here on YouTube Live. Looks like we're not. It's still not streaming over there, so that's fine. If you're over on Facebook, let me know you're there and that you can hear me now. So, okay. That's probably as much as I want to do in that area for now. Because I don't want that to be, I don't want there to be too much pink. I just want to glaze that on. Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. Yeah. Thanks for watching over there on Facebook Live. Yeah, that, I forgot about bringing my mic down over here to me. I was so worried about setting up that putting the Restream key back in there for the API connection to YouTube, and it still isn't fixed, so all that for nothing, I guess. And then I was also trying to figure out where the overhead camera is exactly, how far I can go before, you know, my head starts showing up in the frame. Because I don't really want to do that either. Oh, okay, good. Awesome. Good deal. Thanks for the feedback there, Melissa. So you've been working on any portraits lately, Melissa? I know you did that self-portrait, so I just wondered if you've been working on anything else. And that was done very well. I just loved seeing that, the progression on that. I didn't know if you got that finished. Maybe I did see the finished drawing of that self-portrait. If I remember correctly, I think you were doing that. Okay, so if I need to pay attention to the method of the stroke, like the mark making here and my stroke. If it's a whole lot of vertical lines, then I need to come back over it with horizontal lines. And I just need to remember that's what's going to give me a smoother look and feel to the skin.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Melissa's talking about she still has to do the background on the self-portrait. Yeah, it just takes a lot of time, and there's not as much enjoyment. There's just it's just a laborious task. You just got to get it done, and it just takes a lot of discipline and effort just to stay the course, right? And work through it. Yep. Yeah, some people will call this like glazing, and that makes sense. I usually call it brushing, but the concept is the same, where you're just smoothing out subsequent layers that are already put down, and so you're looking around for areas that need to be smoothed out. So it may look random. It may look like I'm not really paying attention to areas that I'm trying to fill in, but I really am. I am looking at what I'm doing and trying to figure out what needs more attention. And then it always helps to back away from it, to look at it from a distance, and maybe even to blur your eyes from time to time, just to figure out if it is creating the effect that you want. Otherwise, if you get too close to it, you're just going to focus and hyper-focus on details rather than the overall. Okay. Now, I'll set those aside for a moment. I do want to use my buff titanium pencil, and I just want to bring this highlight down just a little bit, but I also want to smooth that out a little bit more. And I want to look for areas that need a little bit more of this lighter pigment in them. It's almost time to get back up there to the hair also. Okay, this is pretty good. That's not bad. All right, so I need a pink color. I want to go from that transition of this sort of glow, this light cream or ochre kind of glow, to a pink, and then back to a darker mid-range value. So in other words, I've got a very bright spot up here. I need a very high pink right in here, very, very faint pink. But then as it transitions, as it moves, I want it to be very, very saturated pink, and then move into the shadow. So it'll be a mid-range shadow. By the time it moves into it, it'll be darker. But as it makes that shift and that transition, it's going to be within that mid-range. So let me look around here for maybe this champagne color. That might be a good one. I can test over here and just kind of look at it and see what I think about it. Yeah, that's not too bad. I may even want something even more yellow than that. But I'm going to go with this for a little bit. So right there at the edge of this lighter value, I want to glaze on this yellowish color. And then I want to come in there with those pinks. Yeah, I'm just suggesting a little bit, I'm just hinting at a little bit of that lighter yellow color. Okay. Now, unfortunately, with colored pencil, as you may know, we just don't have very many options when it comes to pink. So I'm going to test here a minute. I don't even know what this pink is called. I just looked at the stars on it just to make sure that it's Lightfast. Madder Lake. So it's a 2-star rating. So not the best Lightfast, but not bad. And then I've got the only real pink in the Luminance line. Oh, they're very different from one another. Maybe I can zoom in here so you can see the forehead just a little bit better. I think I actually like, for the brightest pink, I don't really have another option here, unfortunately. Let's see. I think we will probably go with this Polychromos pink. All right. This is a delicate, tricky little thing. Because what we're really saying is we're describing the light and the way that the light is turning. So at this point, we have to make sure then that we're satisfied with the position of this particular shadow and where the light is on the forehead. It's, you know, because we're committing to a lot of decisions right here when we do this, and I think I'm okay with that right now. I think I'm fine with where that is. So I'm going to move into this. And I can remember that that I did this, and then when I need to readdress the part on the top, the highlight area, I can move it back down into this area that creates the form shadow. So I can take a lighter color again and move it into this bright color, just so that I can have a nice natural transition from the light to this bright pink. Now see, that's too dark right there. I don't want that to be too overbearing right there. Sometimes things don't go off the way that they went on. So, oh, thanks, Barb. Appreciate that. That's my sister over there on Facebook Live. So here we go. And we can move that. Move that over. Okay. Yeah, so if you put something on with a particular, technique, like I'm using a particular stroke and I'm putting it down, I'm putting it on, then you may think, okay, it's going to come off the same way. If you're using an eraser. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it will, depending on the irregularities in the surface of the paper that you're on, it will take it off in a different way. And you just have to be aware that that can happen. And so sometimes it's worth just slowing way, way down, and getting in there very, very tight with some of those small, tiny details, and maybe going back in the other direction, putting some more pigment down in the areas around that recessed area that didn't fill in. Hope that's making sense. Okay. Right in here. And you may be looking at that and saying, wow, that just looks like you're creating a rainbow right now. That's okay. I mean, it's not going to look very realistic for a few minutes anyway. Hey, Ramona, how are you? Ramona is over there on Facebook Live. And she's got her coffee, I'm presuming. I've got my coffee. So that you know what? That just made me need a drink right there. Oh, so good. All right. That is a French roast that I'm drinking this morning. Okay. That's kind of the way I wanted that to look. All right. So now what we can do, we can go right above that with this Luminance color, this other pink. And I can push that down into that very bright saturated pink. Or I can go in the opposite direction. I can push up from this very saturated pink into that little base that I created, a little buffer zone I created with the buff titanium, right? So there we go. Now over here I'm going to need more coverage. This is all within a form shadow, but there's more light, more sunlight hitting over here. And so we're still in a form shadow, but it's brighter over here than it is over here, obviously. Now this tapers very, very quickly, so I don't want to go up too far, but I just kind of want to brush all this together. I just want to blend it a little bit. Okay, then we can zoom back out and kind of look at it and see what we think about it. And remember, that's going to look a little more odd because we didn't use the same methodology for some of the other areas yet. We're going to, but we just haven't yet. Okay. I can push that back up just a little bit more, not a lot more. There we go. So I can come on the other side of that highly saturated area with this Luminance pink, and that should help everything to blend together over there. There we go. All right, now I want to use that same approach to the nose, to those little tiny areas over here where we've got the color switching, because of the light going from the highlight into the shadow. So the same thing is going on then in the nose, a much smaller scale. And then when we look at it from more of a distance, it will make more sense. Maybe I could zoom in there so you can see that better. But it'll make more sense because everything will look the same. When I look at the highlights and shadows on the forehead, and I compare that with highlights and shadows on the nose and other parts of the face, then everything is going to have some balance and some harmony with it. There we go. So I don't know if my sister is still on, but I sent her the Inktense Polychromos Inktense Derwent Inktense pan set, and I was just going to ask her if she had a chance to explore that or play with that yet. She may not have, but I think it's a fun. It is a fun little watercolor set. I mean, you can think of it as a watercolor set, even though it's Inktense pigment in a little pan form. So it's kind of cool. Okay, we'll blend that out with this other pink. Again, just so that we're consistent over here. You might be looking at that and saying, wow, that is just way too pink. That is way too bright. But I think it'll work out okay. Barb says she's going to need some instruction to get started. Okay, well, sometimes you can just kind of play around with it. And the cool thing about that kind of medium, you know, especially if you're going to do it outside or something and not indoors, as you can just kind of play around with it. But yeah, I understand that. I totally get that. Okay. Let's go right in here. So a little bit of pink area right in there as well. Okay. And then we want to, I think I want to use like that Naples yeah, here we go. Naples ochre, to just get that little bit of yellow right in there. And sort of blend that together. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now if I move back out, be able to see that a little bit better, and I can do something very similar then on the top there on the forehead. Naples ochre is what I was needing. Well, okay, so Barb's asking, how do I know what colors to use to get the right undertones for this portrait? Yeah, that's a great question. I usually like to think about the portrait colors, the skin colors, especially on a lighter Caucasian. And then the lighting is going to affect some of that a little bit, but I usually just like to think about it like yellow, red, and blue, or some other dark color. If it's not blue, then maybe it's a brown or a purple or something like that, or a violet, you know. And so with this one, there's a lot of shadows. I mean, most of this is in the shadows on the face. And so I'm using actually a lot of dark reds, dark pinks, that kind of thing on the face. So I went very dark first. If you look back at some of the live streams, you'll see that I went very, very dark. And then I started coming back in the other direction and making things a lot lighter on top. And I feel like it just gives the underpainting sort of that just that good basis, that good structure underneath there for the skin tones on top. I feel like I'm prancing around your question. I'm trying to answer it, but I'm actually just doing, testing. I'm testing on a separate sheet of paper usually, and then I'm just trying to figure it out. And a lot of it is intuitive. I'm figuring it out as I go, and I'm not trying to overthink it. And if something doesn't work, good morning, Somia. How are you? If something doesn't work, then I'm just going to keep doing it in that area. If I've already laid it down quite a bit and I feel like it's not working well, I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to put everything down so that it at least is like a single layer of that color, even if I feel like that didn't work, because it's only one layer, and then I can go on top of that with an additional layer to lean it back in a different direction. Maybe I went too much in a yellow direction. Then my next layer can be a little more pink in it. That's usually the way I try to think about it, is kind of like that. I mean, what I've done before, I remember in the past, sometimes I would think, oh no, I messed that up. And I started on this side of the face, and I used too much of a particular hue, like too much yellow or something. And then what happened was I would stop, and I wouldn't use that color on the other side. And so then I started looking just like a big fun house, and I would have all kinds of colors everywhere. So that didn't work well, and I've quickly started figuring out that was just not going to work well. So Melissa is asking, when starting out in your art career, was there ever any particular class, book, or artist that helped you to understand color theory? So with regard to color theory, there wasn't anything that, or anyone that really helped me with that. And Barb can probably tell you, and probably attest to this, that I was always into color. Even when I was a child, I was into colors and was I was always pretty descriptive about colors. But I'll tell you, Melissa, that there was an artist that helped me when I came back to art after not doing it for 25 years, that I thought he just made a lot of sense with the way that he explained things. And he has free videos out here online, and I looked at a lot of those, and that was Daryl Tank, I believe is his name. Daryl Tank, yeah, the 5-pencil method. And he does graphite stuff. I think he does some color now, but when I was looking at some of the things that he had done, it was graphite. And that helped me more than anything, was just starting to understand, values. And then applying color was trial and error. Because, when I was younger, I liked color, but when you come back to something as an adult, then it's, what I'm talking about. It's different. It's totally different, and you're thinking about things differently. So there was a book, though, that I thought was good. It was called, I don't remember the name right now. If you want to email me, I can probably scrounge it up and find it for you. But I think it was like, I don't want to say. I don't think I remember exactly. But there are some pretty good books out there on color. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was good the way that he explained, thinking about values. And I thought one thing he said that kind of stuck with me is talking about never, I'm probably going to botch this, I don't remember how he worded it, but what I got out of it is not thinking of a particular value as something that is just static in one area, but it would fade away. You would fade it away from one area, like in this forehead, you could fade it away from this area into a different area. And because a lot of times when we start out, we have little sections of values here and there, instead of there being this nice transition in between values. And just the way he said it or something, it really resonated with me. And you know how that is, I think. I think we all know how that is, where it's just like when you tell your kids something, you tell your children something, and you've maybe said it for 10 years of their life, and then all of a sudden they come home from school or from being with somebody and over at someone's house or something or wherever, and they're like, you know what so-and-so said today? And they repeat the same thing you've been saying for 10 years, and they're like, I wish you'd have told me that, or that made so much sense, and you're just like, what? I have been saying that for decades, but that I think that, concepts are that way, and having us, absorb information and learn something, I think is like that sometimes. I hope that makes sense, because you can hear something over and over, but until it really resonates and until we fully understand it and apply it, then it doesn't always, make sense to us. But I always thought that was funny with my children. It's like, you can tell them something over and over, but until they hear it from their peers or from someone else, they don't really receive the message, Okay. Let's come back in here. Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell. I'm sorry. I can't remember what it is. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, I mean, and it may not be the one for you. It might be something where it just may not resonate with you all that much. But some of the best things, though, that I think I've done for myself is making mistakes. It's just figuring out then how to correct it after I've made the mistake. And not worrying about whether or not something was going to work, but trying it. And then if it was a mistake, I could go back and fix it. Because learning how to correct those mistakes, even with color, is valuable. It's very valuable. But just based on your last portrait, Melissa, I think you may be surprised at how much innate color knowledge you actually have, and you're not really giving yourself enough credit for that. Sometimes, you may not be able to explain it sometimes, but if you understand it and you know which colors you're wanting to use, then you can maybe stop, get out a color wheel. Now that is something that I've done, within the past few years, is look at the color wheel, try to find complements, and even some of the tertiary colors and secondary colors next to whatever that local hue is, that local color is. And that'll start building up your color knowledge. But then grabbing like blues sometimes and greens and different colors that we think maybe as more primary kind of colors or a standard secondary color, and then thinking, okay, within a selection of blues, is this a cool or a warm blue? And the same way with green and any color. And then we just start evaluating and testing that color and seeing, okay, is it more in a red or a yellow area, or a blue and a green area? I'm using that color picker. Oh, I gotcha. You know what? I love that you said that, though, Melissa. I love that. Yeah, I've never used those color picker apps, but I've heard students talking about them and different ones that have used them. And, yeah, the problem, as you noted there, I just looked. I got a link wrong in my banner down below. I'll have to fix that. But what I noticed with that is that sometimes students will rely on those too heavily. So I'm glad you're figuring that out, that it kind of starts to become a handicap, I feel like, because it gets you away from using your own knowledge and trusting your gut and instincts on that. Also, I think you run the risk of creating things that might start looking like, a paint by number. If we all started using these color picker apps, would our work start looking similar to? I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad you're identifying that can be a stumbling block to you, that it can be something that will limit you. And I really believe that. I would dissuade anyone from using that unless you just cannot, maybe as a tool, as an aid, if you just cannot figure something out, maybe that would be something you could do. But there's also a lot of good color swatch tools out there that when you're just starting out, and I don't really know, Melissa, that you need that, but I know Karen Hull makes some good ones, and really I think mostly what it's used for is making those comparisons between like a Pablo pencil and the Derwent Lightfast, or Polychromos and the Luminance and things like that. But my point is this, that you can start to rely on a tool too much to the detriment of your own growth. And I think you're pointing that out, so I'm glad you're recognizing that. Sometimes the best way to do something is just to do it. Jump in the deep end of the pool, right? Okay. Let me look. It really helps if I look at the thumbnail over here to see what it's looking like. Okay. I need to tell myself to leave the nose alone for a while. I think that looks okay for now. The highlight on the nose. I'm thinking what I might do is I might just go ahead and finish this and record it and then premiere the video over there on maybe YouTube and share the link with you guys if you're on my email list, and send that out and just finish it up and show that to you how I finished it rather than streaming this. I'm excited to get on to some other projects for the live stream that I'm just dying to start and to work on. And this is just going so slow because I'm only doing it, 30 to 60 minutes every week. And I have to take this off of my board and then retape it whenever I'm starting next week on Monday, so kind of wanting to get past this and to work on the next project. So all right. We have to look at that a little bit longer to see if there's anything else really that I want to do with that shadow and the edge of that highlight. But I think I'm okay with the way it's looking right now, and we'll start on the hair and just work on that. This edge of the face still needs to be muted down just a little bit too bright for what I want right in that area. But it's a good start, and we're in a good spot, I think. So, all right. I am going to go ahead and stop for today. And thanks so much for watching today. Really appreciate it. And, yeah, I think what we'll probably do the next Monday, and we may send it out prior to that, but we're probably just going to go ahead and finish this up and then record it. And then put the pre-recorded video out there, probably on YouTube. May make a copy of it over on Facebook as well. So, all right, thanks guys for joining. Really appreciate it, and hope you guys are staying safe. Have a great Monday. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.